Hello, everyone. Welcome to eCoffee with Experts episode today. My name is Matt Fraser, the host of eCoffee with Experts. And today on the show, I'd like to introduce you to today's special guest, Laura Coronado. I hope I said that right, Laura. Correct me if I didn't.
Okay.
Laura is the marketing strategist at Webdevstudios, a WordPress web design and development agency headquartered in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with team members across the globe. With over 20 years experience in marketing and communications that includes time spent working in healthcare, entertainment, e-commerce, and public affairs, Laura is never not writing. She runs her own women's lifestyle blog at lollyshopping.com, has a podcast about dating, and sometimes freelances as a travel writer covering the fabulous city of Las Vegas, Nevada. She's a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. When she's not working, blogging, podcasting, or shopping, Laura can be found out and about enjoying openings, tastings, and social events in Vegas or visiting family in Texas. So Laura, thanks so much for joining us on the show today. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right on. Now, did I say your last name right? I apologize if I didn't.
It's Coronado with like a O sound at the end instead of an
Coronado.
A. Coronado.
Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies. So thanks for coming on. And I know you live in Vegas. How long have you lived in Vegas for?
For almost 21 years. It'll be 21 years this year.
Oh, wow. You must have seen some major changes happen in the city
Vegas
there
is
over the last
always
21
changing.
years.
Yeah, it's always changing. I mean, you can go away for 2 years and come back and it's a completely new Vegas. So yeah, I've seen lots of changes.
Yeah. So you lived there 21 years. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas, in Austin. So
right
I grew
on.
up in Austin and I went to high school in a border town, so South Texas. I consider Austin and South Texas both my homes. And then I graduated college in Austin as well.
Oh, okay. What brought you to Vegas? Like, at what point in your life what made you move to Vegas and decide to live in Vegas?
Well, in my 20s, I just wanted to get out of Texas is basically what it was.
Okay.
You know, when you live so long and you've grown up somewhere, often you kind of just want to go away. So I moved from Austin to actually Los Angeles, and then from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. I wasn't sure that I was making Las Vegas my permanent home, but here I am 21 years later. It's obviously my permanent home.
Oh, right on. And so you got to Vegas, and what made you, how long ago did you start lollyshopping.com?
Well, I started Lolly Shopping in 2008.
Oh, okay.
So
Quite some time
I was
now.
already working in marketing when I was living here in Vegas when I first moved here. But I started Lolly Shopping in 2008 just to keep up with the times, really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you what made you start it.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to keep up my marketing skills. And that was at a time when content and content production and content management was starting to become a thing. And I knew that if I wanted to be marketable as a marketer, as an employee, I needed to learn more about content creation and content management and blogging and the different content management systems out there. So that's really why I started lollyshopping.com. Yes, it's a women's lifestyle blog now. It started off as a fashion blog, but I really started it just so I could keep up my marketing skills. And it has actually helped to transition my position to what it is today, to where I am basically a content manager and a content producer.
Oh, that's fantastic. So before lollyshopping.com, were you doing content marketing for other companies and other businesses?
So, I mean, my marketing history goes back to the days when people didn't have websites. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's how far back I go, to the mid 90s. And I was
Okay.
actually there working in healthcare when my marketing director came up to me and said, "We're going to get this thing called a website. And you're going to
That's
help
amazing.
me write the copy and the text that's going to go on the website. And then we're going to send it to the webmaster who's going to build the website." Like, that's how far back I go. And just so I could keep up with website technology, I needed to understand creating content and content management. So that's why I started the blog. But prior to that, I was doing all other types of marketing. I was doing media relations. I was doing event coordination, writing, creating content, but for paper, for when newsletters used to be mailed to people.
Yeah.
So I was doing all
that?
aspects.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Where was
I was
that
just doing all
at? Where was your first job then in doing this?
So my first job was in Austin, Texas. It was
Okay.
called Austin Regional Clinic, and that was my
Mm.
healthcare position. That was my first marketing job.
Oh, wow. Right on. I noticed from your Facebook, or no, sorry, your LinkedIn profile that you actually worked for Zappos.
I did. That was my e-commerce experience, and that's really when I started to transition into copywriting specifically. So I was writing copy for handbags. So that
Mm.
was fun because I was getting to deal with just, and I love handbags. I was like, this is perfect. So I was writing copy for handbags, and I was working closely with the production company the production team to
Mm.
get the content and the products live on the website. So that was great exposure to e-commerce for me.
Oh, fantastic. So your basically main function there was to write product descriptions for all of the handbags that they had
Yeah, I was
on the
writing product
website?
descriptions for handbags, and then they decided, there's this thing called blogging, and we need to start doing it. And we want you to join the team as a blog. I'm telling you, my marketing history just goes really way back. So
Wow.
we actually at Zappos, and I hope I could say this now, we started our blog on MySpace. So
Oh,
Zappos had a
wow.
MySpace space and our own branded space, and that's where we started blogging. And then somebody else came along and said, there's this thing called SEO, and
Hmm.
apparently our blogging on MySpace is not a good idea for it. So
Oh,
then
yeah.
they moved blogging over to Zappos's platform. And
Uh-huh.
this is around all that time where I'm like, okay, I need to learn more about content management systems. I need to know about SEO. I need to know about blogging and where to do it, how to do it internally. And that's really when I started to kick off Lolly Shopping and start to understand content management.
Oh, right on. So was Zappos, did they have a blog on WordPress, or what technology were they using
They
to
were just using
publish
their
content?
own. They were using their own system. We had
Oh, okay.
our own system that we were using for creating the website. It was our own
Oh,
internal
okay.
system, and that's where we ended up building the blog at that time. I wasn't exposed to WordPress probably until about 2 or 3 years later. In fact, when I started my blog, Lolly Shopping, it was not on WordPress. It was on
Oh,
Google's Blogger platform
oh, okay. Blogspot, yeah.
first, and then on Pop Sugar created On Sugar, and this was like there was a whole sugar media company, and all of us who were into fashion blogging were sort of paying attention to what sugar media was doing. And
Uh-huh.
then they started their own platform called On Sugar, and it was a blogger platform for fashion bloggers. So then
Oh, wow.
I moved my blog from Google to there. And then our local WordPress expert in Las Vegas, his name is John Hawkins, he said,
Hmm.
you really got to be on WordPress. You really want to
Hmm.
be on WordPress. And then I transitioned over to WordPress.
Oh, right on. What's your
Mhm.
favorite thing about WordPress?
I think first and foremost is the community. So
Okay.
when you get involved with WordPress, whether you're a business owner and you move your website over to WordPress, or, you're like me and you've got this blog,
Hmm.
it just comes with a community built in. So it comes with
Hmm.
all these great things out of the box, right? Like SEO. But
Hmm.
what no one ever really talks about is that it also comes with a community right out of the box. There's all these people you can talk to get help. So
Hmm.
I think for me, that is first and foremost is the community. It's a very welcoming community. Technology, of course, is very intimidating, and it's just nice to have a community of friendly people who are there to support you and help you through it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing how big the
Mhm.
community is? Like
It
you could,
is.
I'll bet you could find a WordPress meetup group in any major city in the world, if not, the modern world, like
Oh, for sure.
the States or, yeah.
Even in small cities, because I kind of done the
Yeah.
research on that.
Oh,
And
okay.
so when I travel around, and if I'm in a small city, I'm like, I wonder if they have a local WordPress meetup group. And sure enough,
Mhm.
they do. Even in the
Fantastic.
smaller towns across America, they have WordPress meetup groups.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say is your least favorite thing about WordPress?
Well, I guess right now it's growing so much that it is becoming so technical.
Hmm.
Even though they've recently brought in front site editing.
Hmm.
So managing a WordPress website, which is I actually manage our website at
Hmm.
Webdevstudios, isn't
Hmm.
so intimidating. But I know I definitely can't just up and build a WordPress website myself. I mean, we're at the point now where you really do want to partner up with somebody who's a technology expert or WordPress expert who can build it for you.
Yeah. I don't think people, would you agree with this? I don't think people realize how difficult it is to build a website, period.
I don't think so
Until they try to
either.
do it.
Exactly. It's not until you're immersed in it yourself that you realize how difficult it is.
Yeah. Because it may take you, in my experience, it may take a person, visitor, less than 30 seconds to scroll the entire page, but it took you 40 hours plus to build it.
Yes.
And,
exactly.
if not more. I mean, I've built websites, just, we're talking about WordPress. It's like, I've spent over 40 hours on one section, and it's because it was so detailed and so content was there that just needed that kind of attention. So you mentioned that you work for Webdevstudios. How did you come about working for that company?
Well, my friend John Hawkins, the one I just mentioned earlier, who's the one who got me into WordPress, he was working at Webdevstudios, and they opened up this position. At the time, it was communication specialist because it was specified to the blog and to social media. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, you've got to apply for this job. This is up your alley. It's WordPress. It's a WordPress agency, and you love to write, you love social media, like this is up your alley." And so he talked me up to our chief executives, and then I interviewed and landed the position and just been with them for 5 years now.
Oh, right on. Awesome. So your main focus there, or your task, things you're responsible for, is planning the content for the blog and social media channels and things like that?
Originally, that was like, it was specified to that. Since then, now that I'm a marketing strategist, I'm now covering all things marketing. So content is definitely a big part. Content marketing is definitely a big part of my job. But now I'm helping to coordinate collaborations, webinars, media relations again. So it really has morphed into a bigger marketing position.
Oh, fantastic. When it comes to content, though, how do you plan the content for Webdevstudios? For instance, is there a certain process that you have going through? Does it start with keyword research, or how would you go about it?
There is definitely a process. So first and foremost is that we have like 2 segments to our audience. And one is the developers. We have a lot of developers who come to our blog to just get, some quick tips, some guidance, tutorials, information. And our engineers love to blog. So they have all this great knowledge information that they share. And that's really awesome. The other side is that we have clients. And of course, we want to attract clients to our website so that they convert and they hire us, So we try to create content for both of those segments. I think the first thing for us is that we're always trying to be on top of trends, right? So right now, everyone's talking about decoupled websites. Headless WordPress is a big thing. So when we know that something is a hot trend, we want to jump on that. We want to make sure that we have content that fulfills that. So trend sort of dictates the keywords. And then we just turn to the people that we know who are particularly interested in or experienced with that specific topic and talk to them about creating content based around that trend.
How do you define the success of content marketing in the business in regards to tying it to whether it's, I don't know, I mean, a lot of people want to tie marketing activities to ROI, for instance, and if it's helping the business grow or not. Is there a way that you've developed to do that?
I'm big on that. To me, there has to be some kind of return on it. And I think I sort of differ from the typical marketer, which is, just to look at data and numbers. For me, it's about acquisition. Did we acquire a new employee, a talent, to join our team as a result of this content? Did we acquire a client? Because that's really important to me. So acquisition for me is the big thing. In fact, we're talking to a client right now who is interested in headless WordPress and who came to us because they found the headless WordPress content that we created. So once I know that's working, that is the top tier level of my standard for me of success. Beyond that, or kind of really below that, if you think about it, then I start looking at data. We do look at traffic, we do look at numbers, we look at analytics. And lately we've been looking at conversion. What is we're using a tool called Parsley that I really recommend. And Parsley will actually show you, okay, this person came to this page and then they filled out this contact form. So that's really important to me. So how many are these people who are coming to, they're coming to our website, they're looking at it, but how many of them are actually filling out the form to contact us to talk about a project?
Yeah, that's awesome. So when the content you develop, you mentioned there's two different types of content for developers, that I assume you're developers, right? And then content to attract clients. Do you use the content for developers to actually attract staff?
It helps. So, and it can also attract clients. It can also attract clients because we're talking about a topic like, again, let's say headless WordPress. And so clients right now, everyone's buzzing in the marketing world about decoupled websites. Not really the right technology for everyone, by the way. So that content can actually help inform and educate potential clients as well. But yeah, we do get developers because, of course, we have a lot of people actually who join our company because they want it to work with certain senior engineers, lead engineers. They want to be mentored by these people. So it actually does help to acquire new talent to our team.
Oh, fantastic. So it establishes you as an authority in the space, and then thus, attracts people to you. That's awesome. How do you stay on top of changes in the content marketing industry?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Here's why it's tough for me. I can get so mired in my position and what I'm doing. So you get, what is it, when you get lost from you don't see the trees for the forest, or maybe it's the other way around, but sometimes I can miss certain things. So one thing I try to do is I am signed up for everyone's marketing email newsletter.
Okay.
And so I can see when there's a new webinar coming up. I can see when someone is trying to tout a new trend. And if it's something I haven't heard of or that I feel like I'm not familiar with, boom, I'm on that webinar just so I can try and keep up. But I really can get mired that I do often worry. That's like one of my insecurities, is that I'm going to miss out on something new that we need to be implementing, all because I'm just so mired in my daily duties.
What are some of the tools? You mentioned that one tool, Parsley. Are there other tools that you would recommend for content marketers and content marketing managers?
Yeah, well, for SEO specifically, of course, Google Analytics, right? We are all using Google Analytics. Parsley is something new for us that we've just started to integrate, and we're really enjoying it because, like I said, I can track actual conversions. And then Moz Pro, Moz Pro. We've been using them for keywords, and they're really helpful because they can help you find the sort of keyword gaps. So like maybe I'm using the term headless WordPress to, for our SEO and for keywords and, for our content, but then they might say, hey, you've missed all these other keywords that are also similar to headless WordPress. You might want to start focusing on these as well.
Okay. Can you walk me through the process of how you create a blog post?
It can vary. My favorite process to use is when I get to create the outline for the person who's writing for us. So again, we have the trend designated and identified, and then from there I can get the keyword. And then what I'll do is just write out a nice little outline, very simple, here's your intro. And then I might say, you might want to mention this, that, or the other. Then I go into body, and just bullet point out the points that I'd like for them to make, and then just ask them to close it. And it might have a call to action, like, if you're looking for someone to build you this type of solution we just talked about, be sure to contact us. So I like to do it that way. I always, now because I'm working with my engineers who of course are working on client projects, they've already got those deadlines, and client work always comes first. I'll work with the project manager to see when they've got maybe some downtime or some loose time, or if we can schedule time for them to blog. I give them a deadline. I check in with them to make sure that, can you make this deadline? And it's 2 weeks coming in. Are you sure you're going to make this deadline? And we just sort of work together that way. And what's great for me is because we work remotely, this sort of gives me that one-on-one time to work with a variety of different coworkers. And then once we get it in, I prefer when they actually will write in WordPress. Sometimes they'll work on a Google Doc, especially if they want it peer reviewed,
Oh,
which makes
okay.
sense to me. I understand that. But then I don't know if people know this, but when you copy and paste from a Google Doc into WordPress, there's all kinds of style errors.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't
yeah,
work.
it doesn't
You
really
have to
work.
copy it from a Google Doc to a plain text and then
Yes, exactly,
and then
exactly.
yeah.
So
But
then, so then
I
if the writer added in headers into that Google Doc, well, now I've lost it because I've done it into the text. So then I got to, so, there's some work there. I don't mind. I'll do it. I don't mind adding images myself. I always let my writers know, don't worry about it. I'll take care of images. I'll take care of the alt, text for the images, and I take care of SEO for them as well. I do use Yoast, and it's another tool that I highly recommend. And we do
okay.
use the pro version.
Yeah.
And so I make sure it's readable. I make sure it's optimized. I do like to aim for the green lights, and everyone will tell you, don't worry about the lights. If you get to 2 orange lights, you're doing pretty good. And I understand that advice, but I'm a perfectionist. So I aim for the 2 green lights, and then I get it scheduled to go out.
Oh, right on. So how often would you recommend a business publish content?
It really depends on the business and how much they want to grow and how much they can handle. It depends on their own specific sales strategy. Now, at Webdevstudio, we're a medium-sized agency. We do like to publish content twice a week. That's kind of a lot, though. I don't know that necessarily a small business needs to do that. I think if you're a small business, I think you can publish content about once a month, and that still actually be pretty good. As long as you're staying active, like say in social media, or maybe you have an ongoing email newsletter where you're continuing communications that way as well. A couple times a month is good. Once a week is good. It's really hard to tell unless I know specifically what that business is and what their business goals are.
Okay, that's a fair answer. What do you use for keeping track of all the content? For instance, you have to plan the content, but then what do you use for keeping track of it, when to publish it, what stage it's at, and so on and so forth?
So I just use a good old-fashioned Google spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my content calendar. Is I am using a spreadsheet. There are content calendar apps and software and tools that you actually can use. There's even plugins, but I've just been working off of a spreadsheet. That's just the system that's working for me.
Yeah. So did it take you time to develop that spreadsheet and create the headers and the different processes that are involved in?
It definitely takes some time. There is some time, and you want to put some thought into it. And what is it that you are tracking in terms of the specific of all your content? So you want to put some thought into it. You want to take some time, but once you get it set up, then it's just really pretty easy after that. I like keeping it as a spreadsheet because then everyone, I always say this, I know people shouldn't say this, but if I ever get hit by a bus and then I'm just out of here, my bosses have access to that right away, super easy. Anyone within our organization can access that spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think in the same way as well. People find it morbid, but I'm like always thinking in terms of what if something happened to me that, God forbid something happens, and how do I create a process so that someone else can access it or the team can access it? So,
Exactly.
that's quite smart. And so do you, from there, the spreadsheet, do you also have a content like a Google Calendar where you publish the content when it's going to go out?
No, I keep up with the published dates on there. So I keep up with the deadline on there, where it's at in terms of is it a draft or are we still in talking stages about it, and who it's assigned to. I just keep all of that information in the spreadsheet. And then I just use WordPress's own scheduler to have it scheduled and to schedule out.
How far ahead do you plan content?
I mean, I like to plan as far ahead as I possibly can. I don't. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I say that. However, I really do believe in some sort of flexibility because, again, there's trends, right?
Yeah.
So let's say Facebook closes shop tomorrow.
Yeah.
I couldn't predict that, but now now that I'm going to want to create content all around that. Isn't it great that you had your own website and you weren't relying on a Facebook page as your website because they're gone now, so just talking about that sort of thing, like whenever Facebook does go down, I right away make sure to make some content about why you need to be dependent on your own website and not on a Facebook page or social media to carry the weight of your brand messaging. You always want your own website. So I like to plan content out. However, I also like to leave a lot of room for flexibility, because whatever the next hot topic or hot trend is, I want to make sure that we've got content going for it.
Oh, fantastic. What has been your greatest success as a content marketing person?
Wow, that's a big question. In content marketing, my great success. I mean, I don't know if I have one. It's not like I won some big award or anything like that. But I was going to say, personally, for my own blog, my blog, one, has led to an improvement in my career being able to transition into content management. And then two, I've actually gotten freelance. The reason I've been able to freelance and write about Las Vegas for various publications, including LA Times, is because of my blog. So getting notice and getting recognition, and then it leading to opportunities, I think, is my greatest success. And then I continue to extend that same type of energy to Webdevstudios. So when we publish content and we actually acquire either talent or client as a result of it, or when we get media attention as a result for it, to me, that is the great success, is when content results in other activity and in other opportunities.
So starting lollyshopping.com is basically opened up a whole bunch of avenues for you.
Totally. And I never thought that, I mean, for me, it really was an exercise in my marketing skills and just something for me to do so that I could just sort of stay on top of it. And then for it to be a fashion blog, which kind of sounds silly, it was just a little fashion blog. But for it to have morphed into what it ended up morphing into just was really unexpected for me.
Oh, right on. Well, congratulations on that. What would you say to someone who wanted to get started in content marketing?
It's funny that you say that, because I just had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn asking me for advice. One is just, find your opportunity and go for it. And I think you do have to think small, especially if you don't already come from this kind of background. So you might want to volunteer for a local nonprofit, taking care of their social media, or writing blog posts for them. You want to just start building some sort of portfolio of experience. I think it helps to have your own website. I really do. Build your own brand. Start your own personal brand so that you can then, if you're wanting to freelance, you can acquire clients, or if you're wanting to get into the job market, you can get an employer just based on that, sending them to your website. It is great to have a LinkedIn. It is great to have a Facebook page, but it's even better when you have a website to send people to.
That's awesome. So basically, get yourself out there, make a website and start publishing content. Yeah, writing your own content and make something happen.
Exactly. Okay. Just do it for yourself.
Different types of content that you produce. Like, I know content, we're talking about content in the sense of text content, but is there other types of content that you would recommend that either Webdevstudios produces or that you would recommend producing? For instance, I'm thinking video content, social media content, and what are all the other kinds of content that could be created?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there. So video, definitely. And right now, webinars have already been a thing, but with the pandemic and with people staying home more often, because there aren't a whole lot of in-person conferences nowadays, I feel like webinars have even gained momentum. So we're really big on webinars and using that as a marketing tool at Webdevstudios. I recommend other people do the same. So if video production is something you're interested in, you may definitely want to start thinking about doing webinars, doing YouTube tutorials. And then also LinkedIn is now getting into video, and that's something we're looking into also for ourselves, is creating video on LinkedIn. So those are some things to look at. Audio is also picking up. I'm sure lots of people are familiar with Clubhouse, and that picked up a lot of momentum last year. So having like a Clubhouse room, because basically what you want to do is just share your knowledge and your expertise and the information that you have with others. You want to be a thought leader, right? So Clubhouse is a great way to do it. We were looking at Clubhouse. We decided to go with Twitter Spaces. And Twitter
Mm.
Spaces is also like an audio platform where you can host conversations. You can pick a topic, host a conversation. We're hosting Twitter Spaces every Friday. We call them WordPress Friday. And our
Mm.
CEO is actually the lead on that. And you can, if ever you want to talk to the CEO of Webdevstudios, that's your chance to do it. On Fridays, he's there and he's talking about WordPress with other WordPress users and developers and designers.
Oh,
So
wow.
I highly recommend audio as well.
So where could people find out about that WordPress space, Twitter space that you just mentioned? Like, how do they, if they wanted to join and connect to it, some of our listeners and
Yeah. So
viewers?
if you're on Twitter, please follow WebDev Studios at
Okay.
WebDev Studios, and I'm always promoting that Twitter Spaces event. It's today, which is Friday, and that's at 10 a.m. Pacific, so 2 p.m. Is that 10, is that 11? I think it's 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. It's definitely 2 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Then,
Okay.
yeah. So 2 p.m. Eastern is when we have it. Because I'm on the West Coast, I'm always trying to think, okay, what is the East Coast time for it? But yeah, so 2 p.m. Eastern is when we have it every Friday. We talk about WordPress. Whenever you join anyone's Twitter Space event, I highly recommend joining mobile because Twitter limits its desktop capabilities. And so you can't access the mic to ask a question. So you actually want to join via mobile in order to access the mic and ask a question or make a comment and join in the conversation.
Oh, fantastic. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So I'm just going to ask you some rapid fire questions, if I could. So what is your favorite place to shop?
Oh, good one. A city or a specific place?
Great. What is your favorite place to shop in Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas, so downtown Las Vegas. So we have a little area called the Arts District in downtown Las Vegas, South Main Street. It's got some great locally owned boutiques. I love shopping our locally owned stores in Las Vegas.
Oh, fantastic. What is your favorite food?
My favorite food, of course, is Mexican food because I am Mexican American, so Mexican food. My mother lives in Las Vegas and she makes the best Mexican food. So she's my favorite place to eat for Mexican food. But my second favorite, if I may mention it, is pizza.
Of course.
And I love Good Pie on South Main Street again in Las Vegas. It's my favorite pizza.
Oh, fantastic. I went to a Mexican restaurant in in Vegas. I can't remember the name of it, but it was Nacho Mama
Daddy. Nacho Daddy. That has a
Yeah.
Zappos tie-in, by the way. That was actually one of the original founders was Tony Hsieh from Zappos. Yeah, Nacho Daddy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Nacho Daddy. My wife and I really enjoyed it there. Thought it was a cool name.
Everyone loves Nacho Daddy.
Yeah. So what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is coral. Which most people will say most people will say like blue or green, something like kind of basic, I guess. But mine's coral because I love the orange and pink combination in it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And your favorite animal?
My favorite animal is the red panda.
Okay. And the red panda, that's awesome. And so I know I alluded to this earlier, but do you have a favorite restaurant in Vegas besides your mom's kitchen? Or dining room table?
Well, it depends on what I want to eat. So for pizza, definitely Good Pie. I love Giada's at Giada's at oh darn it, the name just escaped me. There's a restaurant called Giada's. There is a chef Giada, and that restaurant is definitely one of my favorite restaurants. And then Bavette's at Park MGM. That is a steakhouse, and that is my favorite steakhouse.
All right on. I love steak. Then again, I'm from Alberta, which is a similar environment as Texas. But anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So describe your style in one word.
Are you talking about my personal style or just my overall style?
Yeah, no, your personal style. Yeah.
Oh, my personal style. Well, right now I'm working from home, so I'm trying to be nice and conservative.
Oh, okay.
But my personal style, I tend to be very trendy. So whatever is the big trend, I always want to wear that. So I would go with trendy.
Right on. Now, besides creating content, do you actually like to consume content? For instance, do you like to read?
Yes. So I love to read actual books. I really don't like to read books like on a digital reader. I like to read actual hard-covered books. I love buying old books. Yeah, like physical books. I love going to bookstores. As far as digital content goes, there's a website called Refinery29. And they have all kinds of great content that appeals to me, from fashion to shopping to skincare to horoscopes. So that tends to be where I get a lot of my information is from Refinery29.
Fantastic. And do you have a favorite book?
A favorite book? I would say it's Stephen King's, and not a horror book, by the way, on writing. Stephen King wrote a book about writing, and it's called On Writing, and it's what I always go to. It's my Bible, and it's what I always go to when I feel like, okay, what do I need to work on in terms of my writing? And I read Stephen King's. Now, he's talking about creative writing in the book, but it really does apply to all kinds of writing and messaging. I mean, I mainly work on brand messaging, but his book On Writing is actually what helps me out a lot.
Oh, fantastic. I had no idea that he had written an actual book about that subject. I mean, it's like so much time.
It's like taking a master course with Stephen King on writing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So are there any other books you would recommend to content writers to read? Content marketers?
Well, a dictionary and a thesaurus are always got to be on hand. Yeah. AP style book is always very helpful. I don't know. I've got so much. I just kind of want to. I have my little library here, and I just kind of want to go through all of that. Here's a really good book that we actually read at the company, Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferriss. Tribe of Mentors, because it just has a lot of great advice. Working in marketing, you're trying to create positive brand messaging usually. So you're always having to work on your internal optimist. And your motivation, and your dedication and your discipline. So I think we're reading anything that kind of helps in terms of boosting your confidence, working with others, collaborating with others. Those actually always help us in terms of creating and producing content.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I want to thank you, Laura, for being on the show today. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, I think Twitter is a great way. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Lollie Shopping, LOLLIE Shopping. But I also handle our Webdevstudios social media too. So please follow us at Webdevstudios as well on Twitter. And then you can always email me at Webdevstudios. So it's Laura@webdevstudios.com.
Oh, fantastic. So those are the various ways that you can get in touch with Laura. Laura, thanks very much. I really enjoyed having you on the show today and joining us. And it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.